It won't go up. Chair won't go up. Oh, there you go. And that table might go down. I think that table goes down.
Catherine
as well.
Alexander, we're still trying to get a sound level from you if we can.
What's going on, buddy?
Mr. Stone, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. Commissioner Arrington, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are y'all this morning?
Very well. You sound good.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Fine, I see you've joined us.
Good morning, Marianne.
Good morning. We can hear you well.
Mhm.
Nice.
Ms. Alexander, can you give us a mic check?
Hi, yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Just barely, Ms. Alexander. It's very low level on that.
Okay, how about this? Is this better?
That is much better, and thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'm Viviana Janer. I'm Osceola County Commissioner, and I am going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. I'll be chairing the meeting today. We also have a team of staff members working to ensure this hybrid meeting runs smoothly. We continue to be cautious in our approach and have a minimum number of board and staff members physically present while still meeting quorum requirements. Staff has prepared the boardroom for us to be properly spaced. I'll ask all board members physically in the room to please speak directly, that includes myself, right? Directly into the microphones so that those joining us virtually can hear clearly. We are all wearing masks, so we'll need to make an extra effort to ensure good audio quality. Board members who are joining us online will participate in the discussion using the raise hand feature and vote on action items. And the public will be able to participate virtually as well. So during discussions, we'll take comments from members participating virtually first and then take comments from members in the room. So now it's time for our Pledge of Allegiance. So today I'm going to go ahead and ask Commissioner Uribe to lead us in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. Okay, so next we have opportunity for 2 public comment points in this meeting. Members of the public who want to speak and who are joining us virtually this morning will use the raise hand feature found on your Zoom toolbar. If attending by phone only, you could hit *9 to raise your hand to request to be recognized. When you're called, your microphone will be temporarily unmuted by staff, and we will ask you to state your name and contact information for the record. If joining us in person to make a public comment, please go to metroplan.orlando.org/speaker card to fill out an electronic speaker card. We also accept the comments by email and phone message before the meeting. Public comments received before the meeting will be read by staff at the conclusion of today's meeting. So at this time, we will welcome our new board members. We have one new board member from Osceola County. I'm pleased to introduce Commissioner Ricky Booth. Is he on?
Commissioner Tanner, yes, I'm here. Yep.
Welcome, Commissioner Booth. We also have a couple new members who are familiar faces and names on the board, but newly appointed as permanent members. First, we have City of Kissimmee Representative Commissioner Jim Fisher. He served as an alternate member for several years and has now been selected as the permanent representative from the City of Kissimmee. So welcome to Commissioner Fisher. Next, we have a new member from Orange County, and I believe she's with us virtually. Yeah, I just saw her. That's Commissioner Maribel Gomez Cordero. She has also served the Orange County as an alternate for the past 2 years, and she has now been appointed as a permanent member representing Orange County. Welcome, Commissioner Cordero.
Thank you.
Before we proceed into our agenda this morning, we have two special guests with us, and I want to give each of them a few minutes to address the board about the upcoming legislative session and what they expect. So first, we are joined by one of our former board members and a personal colleague and friend of mine on the Osceola County Commission, Representative Fred Hawkins. He currently represents District 42 in the Florida House of Representatives, covering parts of Osceola and Polk counties. We didn't have the opportunity to thank him for his service on the MetroPlan Orlando board. So we want you to know that we really appreciate your involvement with us, Fred. Thanks for all you did for Central Florida's transportation system. We sent a small thank you to your office, and today we thank you publicly. Would you like to make any remarks, Fred?
Just good morning. It's good to see you all from very foggy and cold Tallahassee this morning. This is a new role for me, and it's definitely a learning experience. If you're familiar with me and my mouth looks a little bigger, it's because I've been drinking through a fire hose trying to learn everything up here, and they keep you pretty busy. So, but I still look forward to hearing from all of you back home. I'm proud of the service that we all did together in my 12 years as a county commissioner, and look forward to working with you all in my new role as a state legislator.
Thank you, Representative Hawkins. Now we'll hear from Senator Randolph Bracey, representing District 11 in the Florida Senate, which covers parts of Orange County. He's currently serving on the Senate Transportation Committee. Senator Bracey, would you like to give us your thoughts on transportation issues that will be moving forward in the legislature this year?
Madam Chairwoman, this is Virginia. I just got a call from the senator's office that he is unable to make it this morning. We will schedule him for a later meeting. Okay. He does send his regrets and his apologies. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Virginia. So we'll hear from Senator Bracey at a later time. So are there any questions from the board for Representative Hawkins? Okay.
Madam Chair, if I can...
Thank you, Representative Hawkins, for being here today. It's always good to see you. Looking forward to seeing you again, and hopefully you can visit us after session and give us a good update.
Madam Chair, thank you all for having me this morning. I look forward to getting back home this evening after about 18 days straight up here and seeing some of you at the events that are going on in Osceola County this weekend and next weekend. But it was a pleasure to be offered to run the Best Foot Forward appropriations, and I think Representative Arrington got that one in before I did. So always reach out to me. My staff and I are here to help you guys. We look forward to making the success when it comes to transportation and pedestrians in Central Florida safe and the best that it can possibly be. So continue to reach out. Look forward to working with you all.
Thank you, Representative. Appreciate it. So the MPOAC met on January 28th, and Commissioner Uribe attended, and I believe you have a report for us.
I do. Thank you, Commissioner Janer, or Chairwoman Janer. I had the pleasure of representing us this year at the MPOAC meeting on January 28th. We approved the minutes of the October 29th meeting, Carl McKiska, the MPOAC Executive Director, reported on the MPOAC work program and budget. We gave a brief overview of the 2021 legislative session. This included comments on some of the bills that will be of particular interest to the state MPOs. Most of the comments focused on Senate Bill 62 that proposes to affect the work of regional planning councils, and I think that's very important that we'll be watching along. The MPOAC Governing Board voted unanimously to have the Executive Director prepare a letter of opposition to Senate Bill 62. We heard the FDOT, FHWA agency reports. These included, they were reminded of the deadline to adopt safety targets. We were informed that 19 of Florida's 27 MPOs supported the Vision Zero target. They announced the Florida Metropolitan Planning Partnership scheduled for February 2nd, 4th, and 5th. It was noted that the consolidated planning grant is moving forward. This should be an improvement in financial management for all MPOs in the state. Discussed a change in the way FTA 5305D funds will be handled and mentioned some details of the last revenue estimating conference. The board approved the contract for legal counsel for another year. The board approved the resolution to become part of Florida Traffic Records Coordinating Committee. We also elected the officers for 2021. They are Leon County Commissioner Nick Maddox to continue as chair, Palm Beach County Commissioner Robert Wainwright as vice chair, and Manatee County Commissioner Vanessa Bowe as the at-large representative to the leadership team. We heard two presentations. The first from the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations, which is a national organization of MPOs headquartered in Washington, D.C. So we were able to get more of the national sector, what's going on with MPOs. And the second presentation, which was very interesting, was from the FDOT and the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Master Plan. I wanted to notate that most of the representatives of the MPO at the State Board want to gather more information on electric hybrid cars before we get there, and so it'll be very interesting at our next meeting. So there was a request to garner more information because obviously, they're using our roads and we've got to get this prepared. In no means, though, is this oh no, something's happening. It's really at the research level. So it was an honor to be there, and I look forward to continuing representing us here. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reeve. Any questions for her? Yes, Commissioner Terhune.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, can you send us all a copy of that letter if you could? That way our boards can get involved.
Absolutely, and Gary can probably garner that, and that was definitely, we all voted 100% on that one, so thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Perfect. The Commuter Rail Commission also met on February 4th. Commissioner Delary, I believe you have a report for us for this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Proud to report that on February 4th we met. We also welcomed the newly elected chairperson, Volusia County, Jeff Bauer, for the position on the commuter rail. We're also told by DOT that positive train control is now fully implemented on Sunrail and is running 100% since January 1 of this year, and that the trains are running 99% on time, which is excellent from anyone's standpoint. The Sunrail transition consultant has been hired. At the next meeting, they will be making a report out to us. That'll take us several months to get a final report of the state of how to transition it. The DOT also announced to us that Sunrail Phase 2 is moving forward, and that's going to DeLand from DeBerry. And the option that they picked was going to cost right around $44 million, 41.1, which is a little bit less than what was anticipated. And one of the things they had to do, which they agreed to do, was to increase the parking up at DeLand around 90 to 100 spots. And there's going to be about 6 miles worth of double tracking. Phase 2 North to be completed in about 36 months. One of our action items that we did at the meeting was we approved an MOU with Brightline to do a study of connecting the Orlando International Airport to the Sunrail Meadowood Station. It'll take some time to figure out all the issues, and I'm glad that we're actually moving forward to try to do more connectivity, and that's the next step. And then we did elect new officers, and I want to congratulate Mayor Demings. He's our new chair, and Commissioner Janer is our vice chair, and Mayor Dyer is our secretary. Our next meeting will be, I believe, April 29th. End of my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Delari. Any questions for Commissioner Delari? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on. And this time I'd like to recognize our Executive Director, Mr. Gary Huttman. He has his announcements.
Good morning, Chairwoman Janer, board members, and all those attending online. I want to thank you again for helping us out in getting a quorum here for this morning's meeting. We have 12 members in the boardroom this morning, and then there are a number of members attending online. You are all helping us to make these hybrid meetings a success. As Chairwoman Janer mentioned, for those of you online, we'll be using the raised hands feature to recognize board members during the meeting and to call on members of the public also online during the comment time. If you have joined us by phone only without the video, please use *6 to mute and unmute your line. Please use *9 to raise your virtual hand so the meeting hosts can see that you wish to be recognized. After being recognized and speaking, please use the *9 again to lower your hand. Those of you in the boardroom this morning that need to have parking validations, please text your name and ticket number again to this number, 407-497-1536. I'll repeat that, 407-497-1536. We have a new U.S. DOT Secretary. I imagine it doesn't come as a surprise to anyone. It's Secretary Buttigieg, former mayor of South Bend and MPO board member there, now leads the agency. The reaction among those in the MPO world is very positive on what he brings to this appointment and what that may mean as a new federal transportation bill is developed. So there's a lot of buzz around the country about that. The fiscal year 2021 omnibus funding bill is important to the MPO because it ensures our grant funding continues through October of this year. The funding includes the typical annual increase for MPO grant operations and surface transportation block grant program, which is used to fund many local studies and projects. The COVID-19 relief bill includes roughly $10 billion, 9.8, I believe, for state DOTs, and the funding is to offset the funding losses due to the pandemic, and hopefully this will help DOT better balance their work program. Of the $10 billion, roughly $470 million will be provided by formula to the Florida Department of Transportation to help fund the surface transportation program. The information that I've seen shows the distribution to the MPOs include almost $11.2 million to MetroPlan Orlando. And we are responsible for programming these funds as required by the current Surface Transportation Act. And we utilize these funds largely for local projects that are included on our prioritized project list. So it's very important to us and it'll be very helpful. We plan on working with the district and your staff members to assign these additional funds, and we have until September 30th of 2024 to fully obligate these funds. The National Association of Regional Councils is underway this week with a virtual event. For those of us on the East Coast, they are afternoon events. We generally begin our days about 11, but it started Monday and is going through Friday. And this is an annual event that typically would be held in Washington, D.C., where we would try and set up appointments with representatives and things, but that's not happening this year. Both Commissioner Delari and I are registered and attending that event throughout the week. The MPOAC Institute, as I've mentioned before, has 2 live virtual events this year. The first one is on March 19th and 20th. They've shortened it up a little bit, taking just 2 days instead of 3. The second session is on April 23rd and 24th. And then they've also developed an optional online version of the Institute that consists of 5 videos of about an hour, a little longer in length, totaling about 6 hours of training. If you've already attended but would like to have a refresher, that's fine, and we can do that. I currently have 1 board member registered to attend the Institute. this spring, and another board member who has expressed interest in doing that. So if anyone else would like to, please let me know, and I'll go ahead and get you registered. The Best Foot Forward campaign in 2020 held 4 enforcements with some pretty good numbers. It resulted in 1,015 warnings and citations. More than 8,700 people were reached through the program, and more than 5,000 pieces of educational material were distributed in 2020. So they do good work. The program was featured in over 300 media reports during the year. So you know that the 2021 legislative session begins in March. Virginia and I have met with others from throughout the region to coordinate our efforts, and Virginia will lead a discussion on that later on this morning. The staff has sent out a very brief survey to the board and our committee members as part of our implementation of the strategic plan. If you've not seen that yet, please look for it and take a couple of minutes to complete. These are due back by the end of the week, and it will be very helpful for us as we look to implement our strategic plan and any changes that we might consider to make to our meeting structure and how we operate. A couple of staff announcements. We have a new employee at MetroPlan. Taylor Laurent joined MetroPlan back in January on the 29th, and Taylor is attending virtually this morning. And I look forward to the time when I can introduce her to the full board right here and in person. We've also started to do some staff cross-training, beginning with Lisa Smith and Kathy Goldfarb. You know that Kathy has historically been the board's clerk, and so Lisa is now working to do that. So welcome, Lisa, and you and your aides will all get to know Lisa a little bit better now. Chairwoman Jana, that completes my announcements this morning. Now I'd like to have Cynthia Lambert do a roll so that we can confirm a quorum.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chair, before we do that, Gary, can you do us all a favor? Can you resend that survey email out to ensure that all board members have it?
Yes, I'll do that. Thanks.
Chairwoman, I'd also like to. I just wanted to say on the Best Foot Forward, I attended a few of those, and for the most part, they were very good. But what was very interesting, when we did the Orange Blossom Trail one, we actually had to pursue the individuals crossing the street more than the cars. So the police officers actually had to tell people, no, you got to hit the button to cross. You can't cross where you want to. So it's amazing to see the level that most of them are. It's the vehicles. The police officers are stopping the cars, but on Orange Blossom Trail, we were actually stopping the individuals so that they did it right. But it was a great program, and I was able to participate in a few, and it's fantastic. Thank you.
Anything else before we move on? Okay. Cynthia?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So I am going to call the roll now. I will start with our voting members who are actually physically in the boardroom in person, and then I will call our voting members here with us virtually, followed by our non-voting members. Commissioner Delary.
Here.
Mayor Demings.
Here.
Mayor Dyer.
Here.
Mayor Fisher.
Commissioner Fisher.
Commissioner Fisher. Sorry, I have Mayor Pro Tem on my list.
I read the paper, man, this morning.
Thank you. Mr. Good.
I'm here.
Commissioner Janer.
Here.
Mayor McDonald.
Here.
Commissioner Moore.
Here.
Mayor Nelson.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Uribe.
Here.
Commissioner Zembauer.
Here.
Okay, now I will move to our members joining us virtually. If you want to go ahead and unmute and then go back on mute after I've called your name, that would be wonderful. Mayor Bates.
Here.
Commissioner Bonilla. Commissioner Bonilla. Okay. Commissioner Booth.
Present. Present.
Thank you and welcome. Commissioner Gomez Cordero.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Ortiz. Commissioner Ortiz, I know I saw you earlier. Okay. Commissioner Siplin.
Present.
Thank you. And Mayor Woodruff.
Here.
Thank you. And now our non-voting members, District Secretary Purdue.
Gotta hear from him.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cap.
Here.
Ms. El Badri.
Present.
Mr. Jameson.
Present.
Mr. Muhisen.
Present.
Okay, that completes our roll call. And Madam Chairwoman, we do have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Gary, on that.
Madam Chair, it's Commissioner Arrington. I just was missed from the roll call. Unless there's something I need to be told that I'm not a part of it anymore somehow.
Cynthia? Cynthia, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry, Commissioner Arrington. I had moved you from my in-person to virtual and you got missed there. So I apologize for that.
No worries. Just wanted to make sure I was here. Thank you.
All right. So, Gary?
Yes, Chairwoman Jenner, there are no changes to the agenda, so you can move forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. So we'll now move on to the committee reports. Our first is our Municipal Advisory Committee. We have Mayor McDonald here with a report, I believe.
Okay, good morning, everybody. The Municipal Advisory Committee met February 4th in a virtual workshop format, and the items presented for review and discussion included our December meeting minutes, an FDOT amendment to fiscal year 2021 through 24-25 EIP to include additional funding for the interchange improvement at I-4 and Sand Lake Road, FDOT's performance measures targets and transit asset management targets, and also a draft of the 2021 board legislative priorities and positions. We received 3 presentations, which included a presentation on fiscal year 21-22 through 25-26, tentative 5-year work program, and an update on the CFX State Road 414 PD&E study, for which I am eternally grateful, and a sunshine law refresher. And our next meeting is scheduled for March 4th. And regarding my jacket, I won a golf tournament in 1975 in Tampa, and 46 years later, it still fits, and I'm happy. I'm curling. That concludes my report.
God bless you.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. We'll go ahead and move on to our Community Advisory Committee, and Ms. El Bardi, I believe I saw you on virtual. There you go. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairwoman and Board. On January 27th, the Community Advisory Committee met in virtual workshop format. While no votes were taken, committee members engaged in discussion with staff and FDOT on several topics. Regarding the FDOT amendment to the TIP, members expressed deep apprehension about the request for additional funding for interchange improvements of I-4 and Sand Lake Road. Several members expressed the same concern that utility costs and other increased expenses were very high for an amendment to such already large projects. One of our members pointed out that the requested funding for the cost increase of this segment is equivalent to nearly 25% of Lynx's entire annual budget. Members were surprised at such a large oversight and disappointed in FDOT's representation of this significant segment between I-4 Ultimate and beyond the Ultimate as a gap or orphan segment. After discussion, some members expressed that they remained deeply concerned about the large increases and shared that had we held a vote, some members would vote not to recommend this amendment. Regarding FDOT performance measures, targets, and Lynx transit asset management targets, members requested additional information about Lynx's goals for converting to electric and automated buses, as well as its shelter safety goals. We also discussed bridge and pavement improvement condition measures, infrastructure funding, and overall transportation safety performance trends. Regarding the board's legislative priorities, members expressed particular interest in supporting bicycle safety, transit funding, and pedestrian safety. There was also a request for more information on red light camera legislation. Members also heard presentations on FDOT and Florida's Turnpike Enterprise priorities. Our next CAC meeting will be held again in virtual workshop format and will be held on February 24th. Chairwoman, this concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. El Bardi. Next, we'll move to our Technical Advisory Committee report, and we have Nabil Muhassi. Singh. I know I butchered that. So if you could tell me how you pronounce your name, I'll remember for the next time.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. I certainly appreciate the effort put into trying to pronounce my name because a lot of people wouldn't even attempt it. So greatly appreciate it. It is Muhaizen. That's how it's pronounced. The Technical Advisory Committee met on January 22nd in a workshop format. We reviewed and discussed the amendment to the Transportation Improvement Plan requested by FDOT under agenda item number 9A. We also discussed the annual report of FDOT's performance measures targets and the targets in the Links Transit Asset Management Plan. Another discussion was related to the 2021 board legislative priorities. It was a good discussion there. We also heard presentations on a couple of items. The first was the fiscal year 2022-26 tentative 5-year work program. And the other presentation was on the annual training on the Florida Sunshine Law. The next Technical Advisory Committee meeting will be on February the 26th. This concludes my report, Madam Chairman, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Muhaizen? Okay. Next, we'll move on to our TISMO committee, and we have Mr. Jameson provide our first report.
Good morning, Ms. Chairwoman and members of the board. The TISMO committee met on January the 22nd, 2021. Based on the direction of the board at the September meeting, this meeting was held as a virtual workshop in which action items were being advanced to the board were discussed and reviewed, but no formal action was taken and a quorum was not required. During this meeting, we went ahead and discussed our December 4th TISMO meeting minutes, the FDOT request that the fiscal year 2020-21 through 2024-25 TIP be amended to include the additional funding for the interchange improvement at I-4 and Sand Lake Road. We discussed support of FDOT's targets for safety, travel time reliability, bridge and pavement condition, as well as the targets established in the Links Transit Asset Management Plan. And then we discussed the list of board legislative priorities for 2021. And this concludes my report, Ms. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jameson. We'll now move on to a public comment on action items. Anyone who wants to speak should fill out an electronic speaker card. If you would like to make a public comment on an action item at this time, please use your raise hands function found on the bottom of your screen, or press *9 on your phone keypad. So do we have any comments?
I've received no cards.
Okay.
And we don't have anybody with their hands
So
raised
we
on the
will go
virtual
ahead and
side.
close out that section of the meeting, and we'll move on to our consent agenda items. So your consent agenda items can be found on tab 1. Those are items A through G. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Julie. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so Commissioner Sembauer, you wanted to, was that a motion?
That was a motion.
Okay.
So moved.
We have a second motion, and we have a second by Commissioner Uribe. So again, just for clarification for the minutes, because I think we were all talking at the same time, we had a motion by Commissioner Sembauer, a second by Commissioner Uribe. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Well, actually, is this a roll call vote? No. So, motion. Anybody opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next, we'll move on to our action items. We have 4 of them. First, we'll start with the approval of the FDOT amendment to the 2021, 2024, 2025 TIP. So.
Okay, good morning, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. This amendment includes increasing the funding for the interchange improvement at I-4 and Sand Lake Road. And this is mainly due to updating the design of the interchange project to add the resurfacing of the section of I-4 between this project and where the I-4 Ultimate project ends just west of Kirkman Road. Also, the design of a new loop ramp bridge over I-4 was changed from concrete to steel, which added to the cost. And then there was also some other items that are described in more detail in the letter from FDOT that you all have in your agenda packets. And then just to briefly address the concerns brought up by the CAC, this is a separate standalone project that's not included with the I-4 Ultimate work. And the purpose of this is to help relieve traffic congestion on Sand Lake Road before the Beyond the Ultimate project gets underway. So the cost increases for this project are not covered by the I-4 Ultimate concessionaire, but are covered by the federal, state, and local funding that you see in the letter. Also, at a development that just came up yesterday, Orange County has requested the removal from the project of $356,225 of local funds for hardscaping, since those funds have not been committed at this time, and FDOT has determined that the hardscaping is not needed. And FDOT staff wanted me to mention that they are addressing their processes internally to make sure that last-minute changes like this can be avoided in the future. So staff recommends approval of this TIP amendment request with the modification to remove Orange County's local funds for the hardscaping. So with that, unless there's any questions, we're asking for your approval of the amendment with the staff recommendations.
Commissioner Delary, you had a question?
I have two questions, if I may, Madam Chair. First is $33.9 million increase, which is a large number. I don't really see any documentation in my book, and I've been asking questions about it, and I'd like to get a little more explanation about why, how, and what it actually covers. I'm not afraid of the number, but I just want to know what it's going to cover. And I want to know why. And then I'd like to hear from Orange County, even though it's been removed, I want to know what their position is, because we're all trying to work together, and I just want to understand where we're at instead of just rubber stamping stuff.
Okay, Commissioner, we have DOT staff here prepared to address the cost increases and other issues related to that TIP amendment.
Somebody.
Welcome, and just for the minutes, if you could just state your name and title.
Sure. Anna Taylor, planning for the Department of Transportation District 5. In your packets, we did include a breakdown in our letter. I sent a letter to you all. You should be able to see under it, there's a breakdown of every activity and the dollar amount. So under scope adjustments, right above my signature.
Okay, I don't have that letter.
It's which tab? Tab 2.
Tab 2.
The only letter I have is from MetroPlan Orlando.
Page 70 of your packet.
Oh, that's your letter. Okay, got it. Thank you. Let's keep going.
So there's a breakdown of the scope with all of the adjustments, and for each activity, what the costs of them are.
Okay, that doesn't really explain my question yet.
Okay, can you
Why?
restate?
Why?
We're at 60% plans. They're doing a plans update, and there was MOT that was included. We don't do the MOT until 60% plans, so a lot of the activities you'll see are for temporary lighting, for the temporary pavement, temporary barrier walls. We are filling in the gap between the I-4 Ultimate project and the Sand Lake Road interchange. This project was pulled out of the BTU project and is going forward independently. So we went ahead and included the section between I-4 Ultimate and Sand Lake Road due to the fact that this is the first interchange outside of the I-4 Ultimate project, so that it would be a smooth transition. And there wouldn't be a need to go back and do the resurfacing.
So let me ask the question this way then, if I may, Madam Chair. So in your explanation, I see utilities relocation. Normally, when there's utility relocations, the utility company, whoever owns the utilities, relocates them. I know we've had to do that in Seminole County with 46, but yet here we're paying for utility locates. Are they in the right of way? Is it new property? I don't have enough information here.
Because it's on the interstate.
Can you come up here and speak to us, please?
Utilities, Lorraine Bobo, Director of Transportation Development, District 5. Utilities that are on an interstate are reimbursable. Utilities that are not on the interstate, say Route 436, for example, would not be reimbursable. This is an interstate project, so it's reimbursable. Therefore, we're paying for it.
Can I ask our attorney to weigh in on this, please?
That's been my experience.
Which experience? Their experience, or?
That utilities on non-interstate highways are not reimbursable, and utilities in interstate highways are reimbursable for relocation. That's been my experience in my practice.
Okay. Wasn't aware of that, but thank you. Can someone explain why this was missed or not included in the original scope? Someone just needs, I'm okay with it, someone just needs to own it.
No, I understand, sir. So oftentimes in projects, we're looking at, just to make sure that we're building the right project. In this situation, we were, as Anna described, going to rebuild Sand Lake Road. Realize that there's not a lot of space between the end of I-4 Ultimate and Sand Lake Road, so it made good sense to not have a choke point right there. So let's do that work in between those two projects. So we made the determination that the right thing to do was to add that work.
Okay. It seems like it's a large number that someone omitted, and now we're going back to do. So I would have thought that the utilities were always there. I would have thought somewhere on this project of the I-4 project that someone would have said at some point, well, we're at the end of the project, there's some utilities here. Who's moving them? Obviously, it's the project, and now you're saying it's the locals or DOT's issue.
So when you say project, are you talking the Sand Lake Road project or the I-4 Ultimate project?
Either one.
Okay. I-4 Ultimate, this has nothing to do with the I-4 Ultimate project. This is a completely separate project that is under design. We have not started construction. We're at 60% design. I think it's going out in like next spring is when this project goes to construction. So this is just part of that design project process and making sure that we're catching everything.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, my follow-up question is to Orange County. Since the mayor is here, I'd like to ask them or someone from Orange County what their opinion is by not allowing their request to go through. I want to know where they stand in the spirit of cooperation.
I don't remember all of the details associated with it, but when I was briefed by staff, there was some concern, I think, with that they value engineered out certain portions of the project. It would ultimately save some dollars on the recurring maintenance-related issues associated with the project. So that was a concern within the iDrive CRA, and so we were looking at, I think, the future of costs associated with the county, and so that was one of the reasons why we looked at value engineering some of the, I'm going to say, aesthetics with the project.
Chairwoman Junior, we also have Orange County staff that are attending virtually that we've been in talks with this morning, and they're available to address that as well.
Okay. Who's staff?
Renzo.
Oh, Renzo. Okay, Renzo.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning, Mayor.
The reason I'm asking these questions is tourism is important to all of us, and we're a region. We should always act like one. And since international, that part of the region is a sector of tourism, I want to make sure that we're treating it correctly, and that if there's an issue, that we're actually funding it correctly.
So, Madam Chair, with your permission, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. Madam Chair, with your permission, and Commissioner Delary, Mayor Demings is sort of outlined the issue there. It really has to do with a project at the interchange that the county's been negotiating with the department for several years. And we are fully supportive of this project. We have requested that the $356,000 that's reflected in the TIP amendment was inserted inadvertently by the department because, as the mayor indicated, that cost had to do with some aesthetic features that the county may address in the future, but is not prepared to commit those dollars at this time. And again, this is a major interchange, as I noted, that we've been working with the department hand in glove for the last 2.5 years. So this is just a small portion of that aesthetic improvement that we are not ready to commit any dollars at this time, but that could change in the future. And we are fully cognizant of the importance of this interchange to the tourist industry and to the iDrive area. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does, and I just wanted to make sure that, it's such a low, even though it's real money, I want to make sure that we're looking at 30 some odd million dollars, 300 some odd thousand dollars. I want to make sure that we're treating everyone fair.
Okay, any other questions on this item?
Madam Chairwoman, Commissioner Arrington has his hand raised on the virtual side.
Commissioner Arrington?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a real quick question. Does this increase, obviously for this project, impact any of the other work program? And if so, what projects might be getting pushed back in the near future? And that's all I have.
So could you address that?
Good morning, Lorene Bobo again. No, this did not push any other projects out.
Okay, well, we certainly appreciate that. Commissioner Arrington, any follow-up questions to that?
No, ma'am, that's all I had. Thank you for the answer.
Okay, anything else? All right, so we'll go ahead and do we have a motion to approve the TIP amendment as presented?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor McDonald, second by Mayor Demings.
Second.
Oh, I knew I heard a second. I just didn't know where it was coming from. A second by Mayor Demings. This is a roll call vote, so we'll go ahead and turn it over to Cynthia.
Thank you. And if I could remind the members in the room to please speak directly into your mics. We're having a little bit of trouble hearing a couple of you. So I'll go ahead and call the roll. Commissioner Arrington?
Aye.
Commissioner Delary?
Nay.
Mayor Demings?
Aye.
Mayor Dyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Good? Mr. Good? If he's speaking, I can't hear him.
Stepped out of the room.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Janer?
Yes.
Mayor McDonald?
Yes.
Mayor McDonald, your mic might be turned off, but I could hear you. Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Commissioner Odibe?
Yes.
Commissioner Zembauer?
No.
Mayor Bates?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Commissioner Gomez Cordero?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Siplin?
Aye.
Mayor Woodruff?
Aye.
Motion carries 14-3.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. We'll now move on to our second action item, which is approval to support performance measures and targets. Information on this agenda item is found in tab 3 of your agendas. and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Nick Letts to present.
Good morning. Thank you very much. We're here to go over our annual support for our performance measures and targets as we move into our performance-based planning prioritization process over the next couple months. Next slide, please. Just a refresher for everybody, this is something that came out of MAP 21 several years ago and then carried over into our current legislation, the FAST Act, where we need to use a data-driven approach to prioritize projects so we can show an assessment or significant progress towards achieving some of these targets that I'm going to present to you in the next couple minutes. Next slide, please. There's two methods for establishing these targets. We could either work with the Department of Transportation as partners and establish them together, that with our local government partners, or we can come up with them on our own, which in that case, we would be developing different numbers and metrics representing the same areas. So we have chosen in the past to support and work with the Department of Transportation and links to cooperatively develop targets as we move into prioritization. Next slide, please. So the first measure is safety. It has been the #1 priority of the board over the past couple of years. We're looking at the fatalities and rate of fatalities, as well as the number and the rate of serious injuries, and as well as non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. Next slide, please. I'm sorry, next slide. We have supported a Vision Zero approach to fatalities and serious injuries, which means that we want 0 fatalities and 0 serious injuries on our system. This is something the City of Orlando supports, as well as our other local jurisdictions. We've been supporting a Vision Zero since 2018, and we're looking to continue to support that target in the future. Next slide, please. Also included with the targets are bridge and pavement condition. The department has done an excellent job over the years of maintaining our system to be in a state of good repair. We still support those targets since they've done such an exceptional job. So we want to continue to support those targets for good pavement condition and as well as good bridge condition as they've been established here in the target in the chart. Next slide, please. Our target for travel time reliability, which is the surrogate to kind of congestion or the volume to capacity ratio that we may have talked about in the past. This is where I've used the term reliably congested, meaning that we may have a segment that is congested during that peak period of 4 to 6 p.m., but it's congested in that segment throughout the year consistently during those weekdays. So in that case, it is reliable for travel time. However, it is still congested. And we still support the state's targets on these for our region on interstate and non-interstate, as well as freight. But we've also applied these measures and targets to the rest of our network, not just the statewide network. Next slide, please. Here's where we support our local government partner links on their transit asset management plan, included within our long-range transportation plan, or the MTP that we just adopted. Our line items to make sure that Lynx has enough rolling stock, equipment, and facilities to maintain the public transportation system in our region. So we include these and we monitor them with Lynx every year to make sure there's appropriate funding that we can maintain that system. And that's where we have the allocation in MetroPlan's TMA funding policy, where we dedicate 30% of those funds towards transit. Next slide, please. This is a new measure that was just introduced this year. It is the public transit safety target. A little bit different than our safety target previously, though Lynx and MetroPlan still support a Vision Zero for fatalities. The injury metric is a little bit different, as Lynx needs to report and identify injuries that could be as small as a trip and fall on a bus or at a bus station. A target of 0 was unrealistic, and they chose to use a target that's consistent with their historical numbers, and we support that target moving forward. Next slide, please. So those are our 6 targets before the performance measures that we will use for the national highway system and state roads in the development of our next project priority list, which will have a performance-based planning approach. We will also use several other performance measures that were adopted in the last MTP to make sure that we are ranking projects appropriately to meet these targets that are important to our region. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but we're looking for the board to support the targets for performance measures for the next year.
Okay, any questions for Nick, Commissioner Delari?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A quick question, Nick, if I may. Under the transit assessment management, I understand, I think you've done a great job of putting this all together with DOT, and they're great partners. But a quick question, when it talks about fixed rail guideway tracks, should we not have anything in here about PCT?
We will work with Lynx and Sunrail on adding that to the next transit asset management plan. They are all in their updates right now. So that may have not been included in that asset. So that we would probably see in our next tracking the trends and as we reported out in our transportation improvement program come June and July.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Nick?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve as presented to us. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Delari. The second came from Mayor McDonald. This is a roll call vote, so I'm going to ask everybody virtually to please unmute your mic.
Madam Chair, this is not a roll call.
Oh, I have it as a roll call. Okay. So, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, no opposed. Motion passes unanimously. So we'll go ahead and move on to our next action item, which is a vote to advance our regional TSMO program. Mr. Eric Hill will be presenting.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. This morning, I'll be providing you an update on the regional TSMO program that MetroPlan Orlando initiated over a year ago. And just a quick review for everyone. Transportation Systems Management and Operations uses information, communication, and technologies to improve the efficiency, safety, and reliability of our transportation network, the existing network, as well as the network that we will be building in the future. Next slide. This effort is to develop a multi-regional innovative planning effort to advance TSMO. It includes the MPOs and TPOs in Central Florida, as well as the Florida Department of Transportation Office of Planning and Policy, Districts 1, District 5, District 7, the Florida Turnpike Enterprise, and we've also invited Central Florida Expressway and the Tampa-Hillsborough Expressway Authority to participate in this effort. As I noted, this is being led by MetroPlan Orlando staff. Next slide. This image is being used to show that on the left, when we started this effort, besides MetroPlan Orlando and 5 other MPOs that are shown on the left side of the screen, these were the partners or the MPOs, TPOs that agreed to develop and work on this program. Back in July, we had a transportation summit between the Central Florida MPO Alliance and the Central Florida Coordinating Council, which represents the MPOs, TPOs on the West Coast. And this concept program was presented and discussed. After that meeting, we had River to Sea as well as Space Coast TPO decide to join this effort. Next slide. So in terms of the update, we've had meetings with the MPOs and TPOs to discuss many items. The first one was a memorandum of understanding. And this MOU is just so that everyone is on board, everyone is in agreement to collaborate and coordinate on this effort. This MOU has gone through many versions and it is still in a draft. However, many of the MPOs have already gone to their policy board to get approval for their executive director to execute the final draft of the MOU. Many of them have already done this. Some are currently planning for this month or in March of their policy board meeting. We've established goals and objectives. We work with the Florida Department of Transportation to develop these. And if I could just take a moment just to review some of the goals and objectives. Coordination between staff, this is central to this effort. Number two, we want to mainstream TSMO. MetroPlan Orlando has been lauded nationally for our effort in building a robust TSMO program. And we want to share some of this information and knowledge with our sister agencies in Central Florida. Part of the reason why we've been able to do this, number three, is that we have developed a culture that embraces TSMO and understands the value of TSMO. And I just want to acknowledge our leaders, policy leaders in the past that have helped us develop this robust program. Former Congressman John Micah was an early leader in this effort. And more recently, Commissioner Delary has been very supportive in our work in this area. We want to showcase many of the TSMO projects that are currently in existence and the ones that are being planned by the Florida Department of Transportation. Locally, we have the Attain project, which is a federally funded project between MetroPlan Orlando, District 5, Orange County, involving University of Central Florida to advance transportation system management projects. And then we also want to provide an exchange. And this goes into the next bullet, which is the working group. We've established a working group made up of staff from the MPOs, TPOs to meet regularly, to exchange ideas, to find out what the other agencies are doing, but also to learn from what's going on around the nation that we can learn and adopt to our area. Then lastly, we approved, or we applied for and were awarded a State Transportation Innovative Council grant for $100,000 to support this effort. So we've proven the merit of this effort in that we've received funding and we've gotten buy-in, which again shows the value of not only TSMO, but looking at it across a mega region. Next slide. So next steps, we want to convene meetings of the working group. We've also partnered with the Center for Urban Transportation Research to propose an academic arm of this effort through the National Institute on Congestion Reduction. We are asking for their involvement so that they can help us understand some of the lessons that have been learned from developing this type of program, how this program can move forward into the future. And we see the first effort, or this year, as phase one, where we're exploring everything that's possible and considering the feasibility of making this into a more livable program with structure and governance. And then lastly, as indicated in your board agenda, we are requesting action on the MOU. Next slide. So the request is for our executive director to execute the MOU in its final draft.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Any questions for Eric? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, move
Commissioner Delary.
to approve the request of the MOU and to ratify it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Delary, a second by Mayor McDonald, was that?
Yes.
A second by Mayor McDonald. All in favor, please state aye.
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 Okay, any opposed?
Madam Chair, before we move on, I would like to commend not only Gary Hutman, but all of the MetroPlan staff. I know Eric is always the one taking point and does a phenomenal job. And Eric, I'm not trying to take anything away from you, but there's so many people that support you on the staff, and I wanted to say thank you for doing a phenomenal job. And thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Commissioner. And it's,
So we are running a little bit behind, so we're going to go ahead and move on quickly to our next action item, which is approval of our 2021 legislative priorities. Ms. Virginia Whittington is with us virtually today from MetroPlan Orlando staff. She will provide our presentation, and after that, we'll have a brief discussion. Virginia?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and good morning. At tab 5 of your agenda packets this morning, you'll find a copy of the draft 2021 legislative priorities and positions. These priorities were previewed by the Executive Committee on January 6th, and with each of the advisory committees during their late January January, early February round of meetings. Next slide, please. Your priorities fall into two broad categories of safety and funding. And we use three approaches during the session to advance these priorities. And in the spirit of the Tampa Bay Super Bowl victory this past weekend, I'll use a sports analogy to explain how we accomplish this. Our top priorities are those where we are in the game. We are not only on the field, but we are working hard to advance the ball towards the goal line for that win. The legislative items that fall under the support category or label are those where we're on the sideline. Someone else is carrying the ball. We're rooting for them. We're rooting them on because if they win, we win. And this also signals that we're willing to get in the game if needed, to make those phone calls and reach out to those legislators that we have relationships with and help if necessary. And finally, the items that we monitor are those items that may be presented in prior years that have potential to replay from the previous session or something new that may come up. And with these, we come back and we huddle up and we get direction from this board on the actions that we would take on moving those. I'll also point out that many times items that are carryovers from previous sessions, and they may be carryovers because they didn't get the attention that we had hoped or the traction, and or there may have been a disruptor, many of which you are probably familiar with, that typically disrupts the legislative process. Next slide, please. So I'll go through quickly the priorities. Our top two, the first is seeking funding to expand the Best Foot Forward program for pedestrian safety in our area. We're seeking an appropriation that matches the annual commitment that MetroPlan Orlando makes in the amount of $100,000 to this program. I'm happy to report this morning that we do have a Senate and a House sponsor. Senator Linda Stewart has agreed to carry this on the Senate side, and Representative Kristen Arrington has agreed to sponsor this request on the House side. The project has been filed on the House side as House Bill 2753 by Rep. Arrington, and it's already been referred to two committees. Although we haven't heard from the Senate side yet, we do anticipate any day receiving that Senate bill number. So we just ask that as you may have occasion to see Senator Stewart or Senator Arrington, if you will give them a thank you for carrying this forward for us. Our next top priority falls under the safety category as well, and this is seeking legislation to change laws that would add bicyclists into the move over law under the category of vulnerable road users. Bicycle and pedestrian safety bill has been filed in both the House and the Senate. House Bill 605 was filed by Representative Hunskowski. This is a new name for me, and I hope I did that justice. And a Senate companion, Senate Bill 950, was filed by Senator Book. These are identical bills. They were filed on January 29th. And among other things, it requires vehicles overtaking bicyclists, other non-motorized vehicles, electric bicycles, or pedestrians to vacate the lane when it's safe to do so. Senator Baxley has also filed a bill, Senate Bill 278. This bill enhances criminal penalties for anyone who commits a moving violation that causes serious bodily injury or death to a vulnerable road user. Currently, there is no House companion to this bill, but we will keep an eye out for movement on either of these. The first item that is listed under support legislation category is support for legislation that allows drones to be used for traffic incident Management. Senate Bill 44 has been filed by Senator Wright, which seeks to amend Florida Statute 934.50 to expand the possibility of drones to be used by law enforcement agencies, fire departments, state agencies, and other political subdivisions for several purposes, and among them is to assist law enforcement agencies with traffic management. There is an exception that the agency would not be able to issue traffic infractions citations based on images or video that is captured by a drone. The bill was unanimously passed by its first committee of reference, and it has two more stops. There is a House companion, House Bill 433 by Representative Andrade. It was filed just this past Monday, and it has been referred to two committees. The next few items under the support category, board members, are items that were previously on your list of priorities that will remain with your approval today. You have consistently taken a position that seeks to protect the transportation, State Transportation Trust Fund and the Transportation Disadvantaged Trust Fund. The next several items are positions of support for legislation that would provide flexibility and or to expand how proceeds from local option taxes are used. Again, these are items that have been advanced by this board before, and it gives our legislative lobbyists the opportunity to speak with legislators as they are having occasion to meet with them. These are also being advanced by the Florida Metropolitan Planning Organization Advisory Council. Next slide, please. Continuing on that list of supporting legislation, you have an item here that would support the strategic intermodal system funds be used on non-SIS or non-strategic intermodal system facilities, or those facilities that support strategic intermodal system. And that also restores trip funding to a more predictable level. Again, the MPOAC is carrying the water on these, and their predictable level is defined as about $25 million. Supporting the advancement of innovative transportation mobility solutions is also an item that we have on your support category. This next item is a new item that we are recommending that this board support, and that is legislation that provides provisions in the Sunshine Law that would allow local governments to hold virtual meetings. The way that the MPOAC is presenting this item is with a caveat that this request would be allowed during declared states of emergencies and 90 days beyond those declared emergencies. Our experience has been that we have had the highest level of public participation over this past year, and we have had inquiries from the public as to whether we would continue to offer our meetings in this format or a virtual option would be available for the public. So that speaks to their level of interest in the work that we continue to do. Next slide, please. Madam Chairman, with the direction that came out of your executive committee on January 6th, you wanted to revisit some of the board's previous positions that are on your monitor list. So with your permission, I want to address this new category here of executive agency action item. And then I'll pause for questions on any of the items that I presented so far, and then go back to those items that are on your monitor list. This new item of executive agency action, the MPOAC had proposed an item that had arisen out of an issue that is not necessarily a legislative issue having to do more with a practice than it does law. This does affect all MPOs and TPOs where federal metropolitan transportation planning funds are being regarded as state funds for the purpose of expenditure. And since this is more of an internal policy, we're recommending that it be handled as an executive agency action item in cooperation and coordination with Department of Financial Services and Department of Transportation before it's brought to the attention of the legislature. Our team in Tallahassee will work with the other MPOs around the state and their lobbying teams to schedule a meeting that would include DFS and DOT to see if it can be resolved among agencies before bringing it to the legislative attention. I have spoke with our team about this strategy as well as Carl McKiska, who is the executive director of the MPOAC, and he is supportive of this idea as well. Next slide. So, Madam Chairman, I will pause here for questions that anyone may have to those items that we have already spoken about, and then move to those items that you will monitor.
Any questions from board members, whether here or virtually, for Virginia?
Madam Chairwoman, we do have a raised hand virtually from Commissioner Ortiz.
Commissioner Ortiz, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and board members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you guys. At the Florida League of Cities, we have a campaign going on and what it does is alert and educate our constituency about how to engage Tallahassee. As we all know, Tallahassee, usually a lot of the representatives, thank God, not the ones that we have in our side, in our region, but a lot of them make up their minds about what they want to support, what they want to legislate on. So we have a campaign educating our public in reference to how to get involved and call the representative in order for to convince them that the public is listening, and that if they don't comply with the wishes of the municipalities and counties, we'll take that in consideration on the next elections. So what I suggest is that this list of priorities we have, we make it available to each and every one of us, and we post them, and we educate our public also in reference to these particular priorities, for them to also, when they're calling the representative, make sure that they accentuate and they remind them to support us in this particular local priorities. And we follow up. Another thing I would like to suggest is past the legislative session, if we could go ahead and keep track of who is supporting this particular priorities, it would be good for our public in order to see if the Senate and representative in Tallahassee are following up with the wishes of their communities. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ortiz, and I believe everybody has a copy of those priorities, but we could go ahead and make it available again. And I believe we do get a recap after session, so if we could include that information. Mayor McDonald.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, just want to echo Commissioner Ortiz's comments. This is all about local voices making local choices. Thank you.
If I may add, I'm sorry I wasn't finished, and I appreciate.
I thought you had completed your comments. Go
Yes.
right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. What we have is the priorities, but we don't have in detail, as Ms. Whittington explained. If we can get that, the one that includes the legislations, the particular legislations, she gave a very detailed presentation, which we appreciate. So if she can include, if we can get copies of that, so we can be more specific as we address our public in terms to what to reference to when they address their legislators in Tallahassee.
Virginia, could you get that sent out to everybody?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, and we will provide reports each week that will be more detailed. This is as these bills, as you know, are heading through committee week. The session actually starts on March 2nd. So some of these may advance forward, some of them may not get as much traction, but we will be providing a report that would let you all know who is sponsoring each of the bills, so you would know who to speak with and who to encourage your constituents to speak with.
Thank you, and sorry, Mayor McDonald, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
Commissioner Ortiz, did that conclude your comments?
It does. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments for Ms. Whittington?
Thank you.
Virginia?
Yes, Madam Chairman, and if we can go back to the presentation and to the next slide here. Coming out of the executive committee meeting, we were directed to bring these items back to this board for a more deliberative discussion to get a sense of the board's current position on some items that we have been watching over a number of years. And the first is anything that further regulates distracted driving. On your legislative priorities, it is mislabeled as having opposed any legislation that further regulates distracted driving. As a reminder, House Bill 107 made texting while driving a primary offense, and it was signed into law by the governor in 2019. There are permissible uses, which such as when you're using your wireless device for directions or you're using your maps. But of course, there's that prohibition during times that you are in construction zones or school zones. The board had previously supported this item. And this year, so far, House Bill 91 has been filed, and it is use of wireless communications while driving. This has been filed by Representative Schlossberg. And this House bill amends the Florida statutes concerning wireless communication devices while operating vehicles. It adds definitions for hands-free and wireless communication. The bill adds additional exceptions to general prohibitions of uses of wireless communications while operating a vehicle. And the prohibition, if passed, would now not apply to those conducting wireless interpersonal communications through the use of hands-free devices. In other words, if you're using Siri, it would not apply. Additionally, the bill amends the statute concerning the use of wireless communication devices while operating a vehicle in the school zone or work zone. It also amends exceptions to the general prohibition while operating in a school zone or work zone to include hands-free. And so what this means is it goes beyond texting while driving. The bill title gives a little more detail, Madam Chairman, but in the name of safety, this board has previously supported. I think there was some discussion at some points when there were discussions about making this a primary offense, that there was concerns that were coming from organizations such as the Congressional Black Caucus, which was concerned with racial profiling, were texting while driving to become a primary offense. I think they were able to work some of those things out. And now this bill is coming back to be a complete hands-free bill. And so I wanted to propose that or place that before you for discussion at this point to determine this board's current position.
Okay, so currently we do have a position of support on this item. I just wanted for a little bit of a further briefing for our new members. If anybody has any opposition to supporting this, please give the opportunity to speak. If not, we will just assume that we go ahead and support Mayor McDonald.
Oh, no, I was just going to support.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
Madam Chairwoman.
Commissioner Sundar.
I would support this at 100%. I mean, this is in my private industry of crash reconstruction, and I will tell you that, you know, commercial driver's license and our commercial operators are required to operate hands-free for a reason. I would also tell you that now approaching somewhere close to about 87% of traffic incidents are related to distracted driving. And of that 87%, a good 3/4 of those are related to phone use. So I would urge that we support this as well.
So,
what he said.
So we don't need a vote on this unless, again, there was some not support on this item. So we could go ahead and go on to the next one.
Correct.
Repeal the light camera legislation.
Yes. Yes, Madam Chairman, thank you. House Bill 6009 has been filed by Representative Sabatini, and this seeks to repeal provisions of the Mark Wandell traffic safety program and authorization to use traffic infraction devices. This is the same bill that we've seen over a number of years. The bill removes the authorization for Department of Highway Safety, motor vehicles, counties, and municipalities to install or maintain red light cameras. It seeks to preempt the state regulation of the use of cameras for enforcement. And it means that counties and municipalities will no longer have the authority to implement red light camera programs by local ordinance. There's currently not a Senate companion, and we've seen this for years, but we will continue to monitor this. This board has taken a position previously as opposing any revisions or repeals to this law.
Okay, any questions on this one? Any buddy that wants to is opposed to opposing this one? I guess.
Opposed to opposing.
Opposing. Yes.
So, opposed. Is anyone opposed to opposing the repeal of the red light camera law?
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Good. That's a very.
What is the argument to repeal the red light camera law? I've heard a few, but what, in your opinion, what's the main?
Well, I can tell you that the individual who has introduced this is very, very. He was one of the entities who filed suit against us for our mask mandate in Seminole County. I think this is politically driven.
Makes us a libertarian kind of a position.
There you go.
You said it, we didn't. But police officers arresting somebody for running a red light is not a libertarian position.
Right.
As a guy who's paid for 4 of them, I'm still okay with them. I think
All right. I think
for me, they're a big deterrent. I think they are.
Yes, they are.
I am in favor of opposing the opposition to the red light camera.
All right. So.
I just wanted to know if there was something else I hadn't thought of.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's what this whole discussion is about. So.
What deterrents are about.
Virginia, you're still on, and I
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I can make it through these last two relatively quickly. Last year, a bill was filed by Representative Fine that mandated mid-block crossing designations in local communities. It required the Department of Transportation to request that the federal government allow replacement of the yellow regular rapid flashing beacon traffic control devices to replace those with red rectangular rapid flashing beacons and to remove all current yellow pedestrian crosswalks. And that would have been at local government expense. There's currently no legislation that's filed, but we do understand that Representative Fine may bring this back this year. So last year we had just continued to monitor this, and we were looking to see what the implication would have been to our communities in Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties. So we had not taken a formal position, but had just kept watching it, and we recommend that we do that same thing again this year.
Okay. Any discussion on this? Just no position on this?
Yeah, local voices making local choices.
Okay. And finally, we have a new one on the regional planning councils, Virginia.
Correct, Madam Chairman. Senate Bill 62 had been filed that removes authorization and all references to the 10 regional planning councils from the state law. There has been a committee substitute that does the same. However, it does allow for RPCs to their function and duties under state law, where appropriate, would be moved to other state agencies and or local governments. Currently, the RPCs serve an administrative or advisory role, and the bill states that they do not preempt local government or land use authorities from using RPCs. The bill expressly provides that local governments may enter into agreements to create regional planning entities at the local level. I will tell you and echo what has been reported this morning, that there is widespread opposition around the state. The MPOAC governing board directed its staff to draft a letter stating so, and at least 2 MPOs would be negatively impacted because their direct support is provided by RPCs. And we have been approached by the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, who requested that we MetroPlan Orlando, either pass a resolution or write a letter in opposition as well. I did contact Carl McKiska by email this morning, and he has provided a draft copy of a letter that they are finalizing either today or tomorrow. The intent is to send that letter to the Senate sponsor either tomorrow or Saturday. I have spoken with our partners at Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties, and as of today, Orange and Seminole had not taken a position, but that they were continuing to watch this item. I understand that there is some concern that there's some language in the bill that states that if these RPCs are essentially abolished, that any revenues would revert back to the state. And there's concern that those revenues do not belong to the state, that they are local revenues. I understand, Madam Chairwoman, that Osceola County at your BCC meeting took action to oppose this Senate bill. MetroPlan Orlando's recommendation, since we are a 3-county organization, we would need to be consistent with our 3 counties, and that we would continue to monitor this. Currently, there is not a House sponsor, so there is no companion. But with your direction today, we'll move in concert with the way that this board directs us. So,
Okay,
Madam Chairman,
so,
those are the items. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Continue, Virginia.
I just wanted to just state that this is the request today, is that would be to also expand the role of the executive committee to address items that may be fast moving. Again, at the executive committee meeting, you all rightly brought to our attention that the session starts March 2nd. It continues through April 30th. Your next meeting is March 10th, and you don't have an April meeting. So any items that may be fast moving or comes up very, very quickly, we would like the board's authorization to expand the role of the executive committee, that we can call them together to get direction on those items in between time. And Madam Chairman, that is the request, and if we can have conversation on the RPC and then move to action.
Okay. So I believe I had somebody that wanted, Mayor McDonald, you wanted to make a comment?
Go ahead. Either way, I'm fine. Madam Chair, I think that the issue that Commissioner Reeby brought up about the Senate bill is very critical, and I think we should take official action in opposing it and asking our executive director to write a letter for your signature for opposition.
Okay, so
That'd be a motion, Madam Chair.
the motion is to take an official position as MetroPlan Orlando to oppose the bill that does away with the regional planning councils as was recommended by the MPOAC. I will share that Osceola County did have this discussion, and we have voted to also oppose that bill. This is not on the agenda to put a support or opposition, but I'm assuming that we could go ahead and add and see if there's a second to that motion.
Second. I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, so we have a second by Commissioner Reeby.
So this is a motion that was not on the agenda?
Well, we're discussing legislative priorities, but we're just peeling out that one bill at this time, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the rest of the legislative priorities. Is that okay, Mr. Small?
And I think in effect what Commissioner Solari is doing is amending the action item to reflect the board's opposition to Senate Bill 60.
Yeah, but I would like to take it separately because since some of the governments may have not had a discussion on that, I'm not sure if everybody feels comfortable voting in favor of that one. So I think to not muddy the waters. Is that good, Mr. Small? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and Cynthia, I am going to bother you for a roll call vote on this one. Again,
Sure.
motion by Commissioner Delary to oppose the bill abolishing the regional planning councils. A second by Commissioner Uribe. Mayor Nelson, you have a comment.
Thank you, Chairman. Until we've got a House sponsor, I'm not sure that, I think we're a little premature in doing that. I mean, it's fine if you want to, but unless there's a House sponsor, obviously the bill's dead. But if that's something you want to do, I just think at this point, I think the next meeting would be a more appropriate time to do it. But
I'd like to learn more about it.
Madam Chair.
Well, we do have a motion on the second, so if anybody feels uncomfortable, wants to learn more about it, wants to wait till the next meeting, I suggest you vote no. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and...
Or they can ask to table, they can make a motion to table. There's a lot of things to do.
So I'm going to go ahead and call the question. Ms. Lambert, if you go ahead and perform the roll call vote.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Commissioner Arrington.
Aye.
Commissioner Delary.
Aye.
Mayor Demings.
At this time, I'm going to vote no, and primarily because we have not had the opportunity for our board to have open discussion from Orange County, and I really believe that we, in order to vote at this point in the affirmative, while I do support the opposition, I think that it would be perhaps premature at this time for us to take an action from Orange County's perspective.
Thank you. Mayor Dyer.
yes.
Commissioner Fisher.
Yes.
Mr. Good.
I think I would tend to yes, but I'm going to go with Mayor Demings. I want to learn a little more about it.
Okay. Commissioner Janer.
Yes.
Mayor McDonald.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
No.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Uribe.
Although I made the second, I'm going to agree with the mayor to make sure that the county is fulfilled, so I will go ahead and do a no.
Thank you. Commissioner Zembauer.
No.
Mayor Bates.
No.
Commissioner Booth.
No.
Thank you. Commissioner Gomez Cordero.
No.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Commissioner Siplin.
No.
Mayor Woodruff.
Yes.
Let me just recount real quickly, Madam Chairwoman.
Give Cynthia a run for her money this morning. Sorry.
Okay, it carries 10-9.
Okay, 10-9. All right, so I guess we will add that as an opposition. But also, I just want to remind everybody that there is a request to give the executive committee a little bit more flexibility during session to make those quick decisions of things that we have not decided at this time. So do we have a motion to...
Chairwoman Janer, I actually had a follow-up on the bill that we just, on the vote. Is it possible to still, Mr. Huffman, to get the information for our next board meeting so that, or get this information out to the board, especially for the noes, so that they're very familiar with the Senate bill?
Yes, we'll provide essentially weekly information to the board. We get that from our lobbyists in Tallahassee as well as from the MPOAC. So we'll have current information to you at the end of every week.
But can we get information on Senate Bill 62 specifically, since we did agree there was a majority to vote to, to oppose it, just so that the people who aren't familiar with it on the board have that information?
Yes, I will coordinate with Carl in Tallahassee and get you everything that we can.
Okay, so we are running very behind, so we're going to go ahead and move forward. So do we have a motion to approve the legislative priorities? And I guess we have to do a separate motion for the executive committee, Mr. Small, authorization to give the executive committee more leverage during session? Mr. Small.
Yes.
Okay. So the first one is, do we have a motion to approve the legislative priorities?
So moved, yes.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Reeve, and we have a second by Commissioner Sembauer. All in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. The next, seeking a motion to give the executive committee a little bit extra leverage as it pertains to during session. So looking for a motion.
So moved, Reeve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Reeve, second by Sembauer. Sembauer, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Oh, anybody opposed? Okay, that motion carries as well.
Thank you, Madam
Next,
Chairman.
we have some action items that you will find in your board. Do I have an approval for acceptance of those items?
For informational purposes,
For informational purposes only.
approve the acknowledgement of the informational items.
Motion by Valari,
Second, Fisher.
second by Commissioner Fisher. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, we have two presentations this morning. The first one will be from FDOP District 5 office. We have Ms. Alexander with us. Or not? Oh, okay. Thank you. She's with us virtually. Welcome, Ms. Alexander.
Catherine, we're not hearing you.
If you're muted, could you please unmute? Cynthia, did we do a sound check with Ms. Alexander?
We did do a sound check at the beginning. It looks like she's working on the issue. We could hear her okay earlier before the meeting.
Okay, what we're going to do, Cynthia, is it okay to move on to the next presentation and we'll come back to Ms. Alexander?
Sure, if you'll just give us a moment to reset the multimedia, we can certainly do that.
So we'll move on to the second presentation, which is on the Turnpike's 5-year work program, and we'll come back to the DOT presentation. So that presentation is going to be by Mr. Sayawasi, or Sayawasi.
Good morning, board members. Can you hear me all right?
We do. Okay.
My name is Siausi Fine, and I'm here to highlight the Turnpike's tentative work program for fiscal years 2022 through fiscal year 2026. For Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties, we have about $830 million in programmed improvements for the fiscal year 2022 through fiscal year 2026 timeframe. Next slide, please. Okay, we want next slide after that. Okay. For MetroPlan Orlando area, there's about 32 miles of resurfacing projects programmed in the next 5 years. Roads that will see resurfacings include the Turnpike Main Line in Osceola County for 2 segments, the Western Beltway in Orange and Osceola County, and the Seminole Expressway. Next slide, please. For Osceola County, there are 4 major projects in the tentative work program, and they are Project 443879-1, which is Canoe Creek Service Plaza parking improvements. And this project expands passenger car and truck parking in the Canoe Creek Service Plaza. The proposed concept will add northbound and southbound passenger car spaces, truck parking spaces, and tandem truck parking spaces. The number of additional parking spaces and other details will be confirmed during the design phase of the project. Construction for this project is programmed for fiscal year 2022, with the majority of the funds in fiscal year 2026. The next project is Project 441224-2 and -4. And this project widens the Turnpike Main Line from Kissimmee Park Road to US 192 with a new full interchange at Nolte Road. And there'll be replacing the existing partial interchange that is currently at Kissimmee Park Road. So this project will increase the number of travel lanes from 4 to 8 with a closed median and provide operational and safety improvements. Work includes the removal of the existing Kissimmee Park Road partial interchange and construction of the new full access diverging diamond interchange at Nolte Road. Work also includes extending the Nolte Road approximately 1/2 mile from its existing intersection with Old Canoe Creek Road to create this new interchange, adding dual bridges adding dual bridges to span over the Turnpike Main Line, as well as improvements along Old Canoe Creek Road to accommodate turning movements. Design build for this project is programmed for fiscal year 2024. And the funding that you see for design build in fiscal year 2022 is more administrative in nature. And the next project is Project 436194-1. And this project widens the Turnpike line from Parton Settlement Road to Osceola Parkway. And this project increases the number of travel lanes from 4 to 8. And construction for this project is programmed for fiscal year 2022. And the final project for Osceola County is Project 444329-1, which is the interchange improvements on the Western Beltway at I-4. This project adds lanes to the existing ramps at the interchange of the Western Beltway at I-4 and also adds auxiliary lanes along I-4 from County Road 532 to the Western Beltway. The project goes with Project 443958-1, which is the widening of I-4 from the Polk Osceola County line to west of the Southern Connector extension. Both projects are being managed by FDOT District 5 and are partially funded by the Turnpike. Construction is programmed for fiscal year 2022. Next slide, please. So for Orange County, there is one major project in the tentative work program, and it is Project 433663-1, which constructs a new interchange at the Turnpike Main Line at Sand Lake Road. And this will construct a new full interchange, and work includes reconstruction of the Sand Lake Road bridges spanning over the Turnpike Main Line, turn lane improvements at the Sand Lake Road and President's Drive intersection, and new sidewalks along both sides of the Sand Lake Road and John Young Parkway to President's Drive. Tolls will be collected on both the southbound off-ramp and the northbound on-ramp, and with our new AET feature, which is all electronic tolling. And construction for this project is programmed for fiscal year 2023. Next slide, please. And for Seminole County, there's one major project in the tentative work program, and it is project 417545-1, which is the widening of the Seminole Expressway from Aloma Avenue to State Road 434. So this project sees that travel lanes go from 4 to 8. Work includes pavement widening, milling and resurfacing, operational improvements, noise walls, and interchange improvements at Aloma Avenue, Red Bug Lake Road, and State Road 434. Design build for this project is programmed for fiscal year 2024. And with that, that is my presentation. If there are any questions or concerns, I'm glad to take them now.
I'm just going to ask that make sure that every board member gets a copy of this presentation. Commissioner Delary, you had something you wanted to ask?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I want to thank DOT for the work that they've been doing on the 417 in Seminole County from Aloma to 434. One of the things I want to comment and commend them on the repaving of that road. Some residents may not realize that they're doing it very late at night, third shift. I travel that road all times of the day and night, literally, and there's work crews out there, I believe, starting at 10 p.m., and they work through the night, so I want to thank them for all their work. And they're very methodical in how they're doing it, and they should be commended, so they're doing a great job. But the question that I want to bring up is that when they originally did that road and they went over Lake Jessup, the state, when they did that through the turnpike, they exempted themselves from what I believe from some stormwater management requirements from St. John's Water Management District. And I just want to make sure that whatever they're doing, they either correct that or they don't exempt themselves. And if you go on the 417, the water just dumps right into the lake, and there's no attention or retention or anything like that. And all that pollution just goes. I know they're exempt, but let's not create or recreate or continue to create the sins of our past. So that's my only comment.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments for?
Doing what private developers can't do?
That's what they did. I mean, the state does that periodically. They're exempt from the Sunshine Law as well.
Yeah.
So they're good at that.
So we're going to go ahead and move on. The comments for
Sunshine Law.
Mr. Fine. We'll go ahead and move on to our first presentation that we had a postpone. Hopefully we've gotten the technical issues resolved. This is a presentation by the FDOT on the work program. Ms. Alexander, do we have you now?
So we had her switch over to phone audio. She should be able to unmute. Catherine, you should be able to unmute either using your Zoom toolbar or *6 on your phone. Oh, I think you unmuted for a second there. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I apologize for the technical difficulty. Just to make sure no other issues, I'm not going to turn on the camera in case there's a problem with the network or some kind of bandwidth. But Kathy Alexander, Program Management Administrator here at D5, and I do appreciate the time to present to your tentative work program for fiscal years 22 to 26. The next slide. So our work program represents the transportation needs for the upcoming 5-year period. It includes various of the areas that you see here: public transit, seaport, airport, and rail projects, as well as activities in transportation planning, transportation systems management operations, and activities in production, design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction. Each district's needs are developed in collaboration with our local partners, representative agencies, and the area priorities. So the needs are compiled across the state and they're presented to the central office, legislature, and the governor for review and approval, and that is our statewide tentative 5-year work program. We manage this work program in terms of fiscal year, and it begins July 1st, the first of 1 year, and it carries over to June 30th of the following year. The next slide. This slide represents the type of projects that are included in our work program. As you can see, they could be safety and security, system preservation and maintenance, as well as operational capacity improvements. And these are based on the MPO priorities as well as the districts and our state strategic systems priorities. Projects are also identified through inspections and studies and any of our routine maintenance schedules. Next slide. Currently, we are working on our adopted 5-year work program, which represents fiscal years 21 through 25. That first year is also known as our lockdown year, and it's set that way for budgetary purposes. So any changes to that first year may require authorization or approval by Tallahassee. And if you would click. And in the process of developing our tentative work program, we are building in or programming that new 5th year. As we go ahead and develop and we complete the programming of the 5th year and the years in Project 1 are completed, you will click again. We now have a new tentative 5-year work program. And this is what we'll be presenting today is our tentative work program from fiscal years 22 through fiscal years 26. And this will remain tentative until it is adopted on July 1st. Now, a lot of planning goes into developing the tentative 5-year plan, but it is still subject to change. Next slide. Here we have some of the critical activities that we go through in order to develop our tentative work program and in the process of adoption. The fiscal year, again, I stated, starts July 1st, and that is also when we kick off all the activities of identifying the department needs as well as our local partners and priorities for the area. In July, we also receive the priority lists that are submitted to the department, and we go through the summer. We meet with our agencies and our local MPOs and DPOs to review the priority list projects and determine which projects should be considered for programming. One critical activity that happens is the revenue estimating conference. There was one that occurred in August, another in December. There was explicit for transportation revenue. And this is critical because at this venue is where the state evaluates how much revenue was collected by the state for the current year. And that information is then used to forecast the future revenues, which help determine how much money each district will have to support their work program. At the release of the revenue forecast, the district was faced with the challenge of having to balance the needs and the priorities against reduced revenues. There was a statewide shortage of over $1.4 billion. Another challenge we had is that this revenue information was provided later than usual. Usually it comes in September. We received it in November, which pushed us right against our snapshot dated December 18th, which is what was used for our virtual public hearing information or public hearing that was held the second week of January. There's a time period for public comments for public record, and the deadline for that was January 29th. And if you click, and then these are the remaining activities as we work towards adopting the program. February 12th is the deadline for our MPO written objections. The Florida Transportation Commission will hold a public hearing, a public workshop shortly in order to review the statewide tentative work program. Then the statewide tentative work program is submitted to central office and the executive office of the governor for review. This happens before the legislature begins, and that's March 2nd, and it runs until April 30th. And ultimately, we get to the adoption date of July 1st for our tentative work program, which then becomes the adopted. Next slide. Some of the critical factors.
Alexander, let me interrupt you for just a moment. I'm afraid we're running short on time, so if you could try to make your presentation as brief as possible. We do want to hear it, and I believe we have copies of the presentation as well that we could review. If not, we'll get copies to everybody.
Certainly.
Go ahead and proceed, Ms. Alexander. I apologize.
No problem. I'll get through these very quickly. What you see here are some of the funding shortfalls and the contributions to that. I just want to say that at the district we received, we had a reduction of $100 million for the upcoming 5 years. Current year was $80 million. That did result in a work program amendment that rolled up items, and that was processed, and a notification went out from the district to our local partners informing them of projects to impact. We have to notify of those amendments that get processed, and that we do apologize that there was minimal information provided within the notification. We have communicated with MPO staff on some of those changes that missed communicating with the local partners and agencies. So we're committed to improving communication and on making sure that this does not occur again for any of the current, any work program amendments that we have. For our tentative work program, we did have to balance out what we could against what were the limited resources. We preserved executed contracts, committed to our debt service payments, and maintained any of our safety projects and preservation-related projects. And if we had to impact projects, we wanted to make sure there was minimal impacts as possible, and deferring maybe 1 to 2 years if needed. And we can go ahead and go on. The rest is just a listing of the projects that are included in the work program. Apologize. Here's a breakdown per county, and it gives you what the breakdown is per year for each one of those. And you can see a total, it's over $2 million for the counties of Orange, Osceola, and Seminole, and that's across the board for each of the years. And the next slide is an actual breakdown of the type of projects. So you have safety, capacity, preservation, multimodal, operations, bike ped improvements, as well as any miscellaneous. And here's your breakdown for the 5 years with a total at your right-hand column. Now, the next slides do represent the projects. These are in your packet, so if you'd like, we can omit going over those, since really I'm just going to give you information on what's already on the slide.
Yes, we have that information in our packets. I want to thank you, Ms. Alexander, and apologize that we had to be brief. I also want to thank Secretary Perdue and Ms. Bobo for being here with us and for doing so much work to work with us and getting our projects moved forward despite the budgetary constraints. Commissioner Dallaire.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I just wanted to make a comment real quick. I want to commend DOT. If you look at the list and if you look at the dollars and where density is, there's a lot of equity in this, and there's a lot of hard work to get us there. So I wanted to thank DOT for doing that.
Any other comments?
Amen. More to do.
Yes, thank you again. We really appreciate your hard work and all your efforts. Next, we're going to move on to our public comment. Do we have any general public comments?
I do not have any cards. I don't know if the virtual site does. Cynthia, do you have any comments?
While we wait for folks to put their hands up, I do have one written comment that we received a couple of weeks ago that I would like to read into the record. It comes from Mr. Eric Young. He says, the following is a suggestion that I would like for you to entertain as part of your future transportation plans. Your plan says that it will utilize existing and future transportation ideas to move people as well as cars. We all know that surface transportation is becoming more and more congested. Well, suppose we do like Disney, Mexico City, Vancouver, Seattle, and others and rise above the traffic. The use of gondolas that other metropolitan areas are using could be ideal for these counties. The units that all of these agencies are using are fully enclosed and under conditioned air. The passenger enters and the doors are closed until it reaches its destination. Imagine a direct link to Disney or Universal Studios from Poinciana or Kissimmee. Consider a link from downtown Orlando to the airport or International Drive, or from Maitland to Orlando. Instead of adding buses to the surface or building new roads, these structures came pre-assembled. This idea needs a forward-thinking agency like yours to bring something like this to fruition. Air rights are much easier to attain than real estate. I have never seen the proverbial box, so this is me offering ideas that are working locally and in North America outside of the box. Thank you for your valuable time. Mr. Eric Young, Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at PSA Management. And Madam Chairwoman, I don't see any additional raised hands, so this ends our public comments.
Okay, do we have any other comments from any board members? I'd just like to remind everybody, the next meeting is March 10th at 9 a.m. Thank you. We're adjourned.